Yo, what up, guys? We're back. We're on the clock. It's
Yes, sir.
about damn time that we get back on the saddle and we start talking some draft stuff. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been focused on, the college basketball landscape and grinding out content about that. I think, it's good to kind of relax and take a step back and get to some more simple, concrete scouting stuff, which is what me and you are really about, right? So, how you doing?
Doing good, man. I'm excited. We've
It's
been,
Julian, obviously. I didn't introduce you like usual. I'm sorry. I'm a little out of rhythm. It's been a while since
oh,
we
it's
recorded a podcast.
it's been it's been let's not say it's since we recorded a podcast, since we recorded a podcast about prospects.
Oh, I mean, I guess, yeah, in a sense. I mean, in case you guys couldn't read the title or couldn't read the screen right now, this is our big board kind of breakdown. I felt like, you know, it'd be only right since we spent so much time on this big board, and more of a watch list really for the top 15 guys that we see going into the season that we want people to be paying attention to and following along with us. Um, I feel like it was only right that we did a little summary of it, maybe give a little bit more nuanced takes than what we wrote, things of that nature. So I also just think it's a good idea to walk through it because it's a fire big board.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited. I love every single prospect on this big board. Um, some more than others, but I do think that all of these guys may not necessarily be at the top 15 in the NBA draft, but I think they're all first round picks.
Yeah, I think all these guys are solid first round picks, at least from this point in time. I think most of them will stay in that conversation. Without further ado, I want to get going though. So let's get this on to the first guy. I mean, do we want to talk a little bit about our archetype system here?
Yeah, let's we don't need to go too in depth. I want
We
to
can,
get to the
let's
big
keep it
board.
basic. I mean, we could basically, there's five positions in standard basketball breakdowns. We've developed six. Yeah, I mean
Let's see,
six.
we got
We have
one,
point
two,
guard,
three.
combo guard, wing, power wing, combo five, and big, um, which is six position groups. And then we've also developed several archetypes. We have creating three and D, two way, shooting, and athletic.
And
Um,
if you're more interested and want to understand this a little bit better, go to our website. It's up there.
yeah, I mean it's there. There's an easy place to find most of the things that you're looking for in terms of big board analysis on our website with this one-stop shop kind of thing that we got going here at On the Clock.
Yeah. Well,
So
let's
let's
get.
get into the first guy. You want to start with this one, Julian?
Man, I mean, look, I don't want to go on about him too much because I think everyone knows who Victor. If you have followed basketball in any sense in the last month and a half, you probably know who Victor Wembanyama is.
Yeah.
Um, he is a 7'4". You could technically call him a big man, but we see him more as kind of a weird hybrid four guy.
We're taking over the NBA space, so we're only going to refer to players as our position group or archetype. We're not going to speak in like hypothetical sense. You know what I mean?
Fair.
Let's just
We
start
see him as a
there.
combo five.
Combo.
Um, the way that we think that Wembanyama is best played is you put him next to, a Jared Allen or someone who's a pure center, and just let Wembanyama do Wembanyama things defensively. And this kid is nuts. He shoots like a guard, he dribbles like a guard, he runs the floor like a guard, and he's 7'4". I don't think that you can make players on 2K who are too different from Victor Wembanyama
I mean,
in your
there's
wildest dreams.
players that you can really make in 2K unless you're doing create a player that are like Victor Wembanyama. He's truly an anomaly. Um, yeah, I mean, I didn't mean to steal the wheel from you there, but I mean, talking more skill set wise, I mean, he's able to draft pass dribble shoot, um, and he's like really capable on ball as a creator. I think that that's one thing for 7'4" that he does that's above. That's not really like anything we've seen. Defensively, when you talk about his defensive prowess, I think it's probably his biggest strength, but I think more specifically his length and versatility defensively, his ability to defend on the perimeter. He's got quick, agile feet. He's able to block shots and contest shots consistently on the perimeter, which I think is super important. Um, yeah, I mean, those are just the things that I always want to point out when talking about this guy that not everybody takes the time to point out because it is a 7'4" guy shooting threes.
And his wingspan, he's got an 8 foot wingspan. He truly is one of the most unique prospects that I've ever heard of. And I we don't know what his ceiling is. He's 18. Um, so we think that
I
just
mean, I said it there. If he can add to his frame, he will likely be one of the best basketball players in the world for years to come.
yeah, he he could be the best player in the NBA in 3 or 4 years very
Yeah, I mean,
easily.
it's the Giannis combined with the KD thing. Like, I think that as long as he puts in the work and has the mentality of a guy like Giannis and is able to continue to improve his physicality and able to impose kind of his size, um, every game over an 82 game season and stay healthy, then I mean, we're talking about a guy who's truly foundational for, any team in the league. Like, he can step in and he's better than year four. Like,
Yep.
he comes into the league probably as one of the top five power forward, positions, like the four. He probably comes into the league and is already in that conversation as one of the top 10 guys.
Yep.
It's a weak position. I think he is the future of it. So we can move on.
Next up, we have Scoot Henderson.
Scooter.
Another guy, I mean, we both really love Scoot. And
It's
here's the
hard not
funny
to.
thing about this draft. If Wembanyama doesn't exist, Scoot is a slam dunk #1 pick. Easy. You're taking Scoot Henderson as a guy who can very easily be your point guard for the next 10 years. He has one of a kind burst. He's got an elite skill set of dribble moves. He can see the floor really well. His jump shot has taken tremendous strides over the last year.
His ability to just create and for himself has just taken tremendous strides.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in the showcase game that him and Wembanyama played how devastating he can be at creating his own shot, how hard it is to keep him in front of you.
It's
Um,
real.
he's he is another dude who is working his tail off to be a great basketball player. And I think the big thing for him that I really like is he will be accustomed to the physicality of the NBA by playing a full G League Ignite season for the second year in a row. That
Yeah,
is huge. He's playing against guys, especially given the increased quality of the G League right now. He's going to be playing against guys who could be NBA, who like could easily be called up next week to play for an NBA team.
absolutely. I think that I said in my report. I mean, I'm gonna reference mostly to my reports for most of these because I felt like I gave like my general consensus on him. He's a relentless player, and I think that his competitive drive and his motor is what is able to separate him from his peers, especially, and able to elevate him to compete with NBA players that are guys that are, like you mentioned, could get NBA minutes on rosters or be starters on other G League teams. Where he is getting the chance to run the show, and go against these guys and also play with them every night. I think that, you made a point about him being a possible guy who could be a #1 pick. He gives me the John Wall vibes.
Yeah.
I've mentioned that. I think that he's a stable point guard, and I think he's a reliable guy that you could see going as a #1 option, depending on the team that gets it. Wembanyama is Wembanyama. Knock on wood, I hope that guy stays healthy. But this is the safe, clear option to me. I mean, if I have the #1 pick right now with what I know, um, and I don't have a starting point guard,
I'm taking Scoot Henderson. Yeah. Scoot Henderson, like I look, anyone can be a bust and I think that that's something to shoot, but I just think it's a very very low chance that this guy is anything other than a very good NBA player for the next 10 years.
yeah, I agree.
All right, next up, Cam Whitmore, your favorite player in this class.
This is my favorite player going into college basketball this season. I mean, this is what I think. When I look at the NBA, this is where I use most of like my NBA philosophy. When looking at Cam Whitmore, I say, who are the most impactful players in the game today? And most of them are wings that can get to the basket, create their own shot, create for others, impact the game in multiple ways. And then it has the athletic prowess to dominate and take over. And then also combine that with, skill. And I think that as a college player, a player going into college and as a prospect, there's very few players in this class that have presented that type of skill set. Cam Whitmore has presented that type of skill set. Like he is able to finish consistently inside with an array of moves, whether it's powerful, acrobatic, or finesse. And he is a dynamic scorer on the perimeter. He is going to turn up, bro. Like I think that he in a situation where he is not forced to be the primary guy, he is going to knock down open shots when he gets the ball in his hands from outside. I think that these are simple things that he can do to contribute consistently. And then also on top of that, you have the playmaking flashes that you see. If you watch every single time this guy steps on the floor, he shows you something else in his game that he's been working on. And I don't know many players that are like that. I'm just telling you, this guy he's good right now. He's young. He's going to be 18 years old. I've said this every time I talk about Cam Whitmore. He's going to be 18 years old, sitting there in the green room waiting for his name to be called.
My big thing with Cam Whitmore,
And he's going to get
and
better. He's going to get better every time, Julian.
I know, but I don't the age stuff. I don't care about that. My big thing here's when I evaluate wings, I look at their ability to need to do one of two things well, and I've told you this, Caleb. They need to A, be able to get to the basket at will, or B, be able to create their own shot off the dribble. Cam Whitmore can get to the basket whenever he wants to, however he wants to, and for that alone, he's an NBA player. The other thing is his jumper is not broken. A lot of times you see guys like this that don't have to rely on their jumper, that don't develop a jumper. Cam Whitmore, again, the other big thing to reference here, he's going to Villanova, a school that is notorious for sending great 3 and D players to the NBA. And since his jumper is not broken, since he has at least the capability to hit 20 to 30% right now, and I think that he will get plenty of catch and shoot opportunities at Villanova.
I think he's going to shoot 35+% from three.
His offensive game is going to be complete by the time he comes into the NBA. My big thing with Cam Whitmore, I need to see him be able to do it on the defensive end consistently with what I think he's capable of.
I mean,
But
that's
for
a big
me,
thing.
Cam,
I always, and I'm going to iterate this before we get further in this big board. With a lot of these guys defensively, it's about seeing it at the next level. Unless
that's
that,
and I
unless I'm sure about them as a defensive focus prospect, there's very few guys like, Victor Wembanyama, I want to see in the NBA play defense, like before I'm sold on it. You know what I mean? Like
I
I
think
want to
I
see
think
him
with
guard Joel Embiid before
I
I'm.
think with Cam Whitmore, we know he has especially with his athleticism and his physical attributes. I want to see Cam Whitmore locking in on defense this year at Villanova. That's a big thing. If Cam Whitmore is going to be at 3 in this draft, I think that's what he has to do at Nova this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other stuff? I mean, but look,
Oh,
he's another guy who could be an
you got
all-star.
you got the defensive thing right. I mean, I can see him being a guy that challenges, for the number one overall pick, but I know I'm very few and that take. So I know I'm in the minority. It's gonna be all right.
Next up, Nick Smith Jr. Another man, I love the top 4 in this class. I love the top 5 in this class, man.
Nick
I
Smith
really
is
do.
fun. This is one of the more fun players in this class. I think that when you're talking about a pure scorer, this is it. In terms of where the value is. He's a guy that you're just going to count on to get buckets. And I think that he also brings a lot of other things to the table that only add to his value. I get a really like a Bradley Beal vibe here. Like I think it's a guy that can create his own shot off the dribble. Um, you know, I'd like to see him improve as a playmaker. I think that's something that could really elevate his stock, especially playing for a team at Arkansas where it's going to be kind of hot potato on who's running the show.
Yeah,
Um, I'd like to see him be assertive about being like, okay, Anthony Black, when when you're not shooting well or you're not making the right plays,
give me
I
the
can
ball.
run the show. Give me the
Give me the
ball.
ball. Yeah,
I want to run the pick and roll, the high pick and roll. Like I'm going to take this guy off the dribble. I'm going to get a three, or I'm going to get a shot or get close to taking a shot that's going to create an opportunity for other people. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think that once he's able to make that next step is like I could score it every time, but like the easiest play sometimes is to dump that pass off and make the easy play, get the easy 2 points, and come back down and try again next time and continue. I think once he finds that success and can find that nuance in the game, he becomes like a top three pick. Like he becomes a guy that can contend Cam Whitmore for that third spot on our big board at least. I think he can become a guy that is a staple of an NBA franchise as a scorer.
Yeah, I think the big thing with Nick Smith is he's gonna have the ball in his hands a lot. And so seeing how his decision making evolves this year is gonna dictate where he falls in this draft class. Because I think that he is such a good three-level scorer. That's the big thing here. Is he's not just a scorer, he's a three-level scorer. He's got the step backs, he's got the pull-up mid-range, he's got the burst to get by you and get to the cup.
I compare his step back
And
to myself.
hmm?
I think his step back's almost as good as mine.
Check out Caleb's mixtape. Um, but he's another guy I want to see him forcing turnovers and getting this Arkansas team out in transition is going to be huge for them. And I think that Nick Smith has the length to do that. Same thing with Cam Whitmore. I want to see the big thing with a couple of the college guys in this class is they're great offensive players. I want to see them lock in on a lot of possessions defensively and really show, hey, like
We'll
I'm
get
a
there
two-way
on this
player.
board, bro. We'll get there with the
I'm a two-way
defensive guys
player.
from Arkansas. But I think
But
Nick Smith has that chance to really elevate his stock into the next atmosphere if he can do the defense and then what I touched on with the playmaking.
he's the best pure scorer in this class.
Yeah, I think I mean, he's demonstrated it time and time again. I have no reason to doubt him anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Amen Thompson.
Uh, go
This
ahead.
was so we've gone back and forth a lot on Amen Thompson. I think that when if you listen to our deep dives on the Thompson twins, you'll hear some of the critiques we have of OTE. But
Read
the
my
thing that
article. You'll hear some of the critiques about
yeah,
OT.
but the thing with the Thompson twins that keeps bringing me back to them, and I don't want these are guys. Here's my view on the Thompson twins. They're really good kids. They have a unique ability defensively, and Amen specifically has an ability to see the floor that not many kids his age have. And I think that the only thing that you're looking for is for the jump shot to develop. And I think that with these guys, I think that if you're an NBA team, you have to be willing to give these guys 2 to 3 years to really be what we think that they can be. I don't think that they're going to hit the court right away and be like the Paolo Banchero or Jaden Ivey or Ben Mathen of this draft. But I think if you let these kids develop, especially Amen, if you let him play with the ball in his hands, kind of give him the Jalen Green treatment that Jalen Green's getting in Houston, and just give him time. I think Amen Thompson can become a special player. With
Yeah, and I
he's
mean,
just
I told you, you asked me the question, if we were doing a redraft 3 years from now, do you think either the Thompson twins, where will they be? And I said, I think one of them will be worth a top five pick still. And I think one of them will be worth maybe a top 10 pick. I think no matter what, if they get in the right situation, they will have upside. Like they have upside. That's the undeniable thing that both these guys have is this amount of potential that could be squeezed out with the right coaching, with the right situation, and with the right teammates. And I think that a guy like Amen Thompson is a perfect example of that. I mean, I could see him on the Wizards. I could see him on the Pacers. I could see him on the Raptors. I mean, there's a lot of teams I'd love to see these guys on. The Jazz, I think the Jazz is a perfect fit for one of these guys to come in and just run the show and be like
I
be that type of player. But yeah,
I think the reason that they're this high is because we know that they're going to succeed defensively. There is zero doubt in my mind that these guys are going to be great NBA defenders.
yeah,
Um,
they can defend.
and I think that Amon is higher on our list because we like his playmaking more than we like Ausar's. And the jump shot again is the only concern. And the other big
We'll talk
concern
about
is
jump shot with Ausar because I'm more comfortable with his jumper. I think with
mm,
Amon, both of their forms are very similar. I think neither of them are absolutely broken. They both shown slight improvements in free throw shooting. Amon is just like I just think he is more geared towards scoring inside the paint.
He's more dynamic with the ball in his hands than Ausar is.
I don't know though. I feel like
I think he
Ausar.
is.
I feel like Ausar. We'll get to Ausar, but I think there's some differences with Amin. I like a lot more of the defensive stuff I see. I think I see more consistent production from him on defense and in transition. I think he's more aggressive. And I think he knows his. I think he knows his ceiling better than Ausar does.
Hmm. Interesting.
If that makes sense. Like I think Immense
Interesting.
sees the lane for himself to be a 6'7" point guard in the NBA. I don't think Osar has kind of figured out what his role yet, whether he's a similar player to Amin or if Osar is a whole different beast than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the twin thing gets them lumped together a little bit too, which is an
Yeah, and
interesting.
I think that's why I'm trying to break it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I genuinely think that Osar is probably more in his head about what he is, like and how where his development leads than I think Amin is. I think Amin's confident that, I'm a point guard. Like this is what I want to do. I want to have the ball in my hands. I want to be the best in the world at distributing, creating easy dunks at the rim for myself, and playing absolute clamp defense. Like
Yeah.
this is Lonzo Ball.
Yeah.
Next. I'm just saying, like it's that simple. People are overcomplicating some of these evaluations on these two. I just think it's as simple as saying both these guys are about where we saw Lonzo Ball coming out of high school.
Yeah.
They maybe Lonzo had better shooting flashes, but like I think that then where Lonzo had better shooting flashes, these guys are way more dynamic athletes. Yeah, the defensive.
Jarace Walker.
Speaking of defense, is there.
I love. I
This is a
so
clamp god right here.
For
This is
those of you who don't know, I was a big advocate for having Jarace Walker in our top five on the big board. Um, just because I see similar things that we've talked about with Cam Whitmore. Not the explosiveness necessarily,
I
but the
still think there's
archetype
some of
of
the explosiveness there.
some of it on the defensive end more, but the ability that Jarace has with the ball in his hands to be a playmaker and a shot creator for himself, and the defense speaks for itself. As a weak side wing, Jarace Walker is one of the best guys in this class, and it's for him. I sound like a broken record here, but it's going to come down to the jump shot.
Yeah,
Can Jarace Walker
it's
shoot?
broke. It's so broken.
I don't think it's that broken.
He's got a load time. Like it looks like he's playing 2K and he's lagging, bro.
I think he can get it off.
I
I
know,
think
and
he'll be
I've seen
fine.
the mid range. I've seen the mid range and the touch is there. His touch
That's
is
the
there.
thing. He's got
He has good
touch.
touch, and like I said in there, he has a good dribble package and get to his spots, no problem. I'm confident in that. But we'll see how that clunky jumper works at the next level.
Yeah, but I mean,
He's
again,
a beast. I mean, the defensive
he's
stuff is unreal. Like his
it's
versatility on that end of the floor is matched by very few people in this class, and that's why he's here.
and I think that for a wing, his ability to handle the ball is better than most wings his age,
Yeah,
given
he's.
his skill set.
I mean, he has a good
It's
dribble package. He can get to his spots, no problem.
he's a slight risk, but I
I
think
don't
he's
even
got
know if
higher upside.
I don't know if he's that big of a risk. Like
I
this
think
is
he's a risk. I think he's a risk offensively, but not defensively.
fair enough. All
But
right.
again, the same reason we had Amen that high. If we know a guy is going to be a good defender in the NBA, we
He's gonna
like
have a great chance in Houston to show his defensive stuff, and I think he'll have a good role offensively to where we can. I think this guy's like a Scotty Barnes type of player.
Yeah, I agree with that. Next up, the best pure big in this class, Dereck Lively II.
Yeah, this is our first big, and I mean, with this, I mean, it's the number one player in all of high school basketball. Lively is a monster in terms of his physicality, his size. Like, he is, it is clear that he has the physical tools and intangibles to be a guy that is, a starting center in the NBA for a while. And I think that when you look at him and you look for areas of improvement, I think it's just he needs to learn how to use that big body of his and learn how to dominate the interior. I think that's the biggest thing that he needs to do for Duke this year, and I think it's going to be the biggest thing that he's asked to do in the NBA. The outside shooting is cool. We have it as a swing skill on here, but I mean, the biggest thing for me is that he doesn't turn that outside shooting being a swing skill for him into being his biggest priority as a player and improving. I want to
Yeah,
see
I
him,
we want to see Lively dominate down low before he develops the outside shot.
yeah,
I mean, again, he can do it, and I think for Duke, he's going to be starting and given the opportunity to do it. And I think that a lot of the Blue Devils, I mean, we don't I don't want to get too much into teams right now, but I think that a lot of the Blue Devils' ability to defend the paint is going to depend on how dominant of an inside force Dereck Lively can be.
yeah, I agree. I feel like this is a short one.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, he's a straightforward player. I mean, if
he's
you
a
want to
straight
talk,
up big.
like, yeah, he can protect the rim, dunk over anybody. He's a powerful finisher. There's just like there's a lot of nuances of the game that I still want to see from him, though.
Yeah.
Ausar
Ausar.
Thompson. I mean, we talked a lot about Amin. I just think that um, with this guy, I think with Ausar, not this guy, but I think with Ausar opposed to his brother, um, I'm not as sure on the defense. I think that there's a lot more lapses in off ball defense with the Ausar.
Yeah.
Than Amin. I think Amin's a ball hunter. I don't think Ausar's the same way. I think Ausar likes to let the game come to him a little bit more, where his brother's a little bit more assertive. But at the same time, I think that he presents himself as a guy who, if he figures out the offensive stuff in the game, I think he could be a lot better than his brother. Because I think that he has some raw smoothness and kind of silkiness to his game, where his brother's more pace and his brother's more speed related, whereas Ausar is more of the whereas like Amin moves like a hot knife cutting through butter, and Asar is kind of like a warm knife cutting through butter. You know what I mean? He's smooth with it. Like he takes his
Yeah.
time. You know what I mean? And
I
like
think
I think that in a right system could, if he gets drafted 10th and Amin gets drafted 4th, I'm going to bet on Asar being a better player depending on their situation, because I think like a team that takes him with the understanding, and I think this is the thing. I think Asar will be taken with the understanding that there is a lot more development to be done, and I think teams are going to commit to that, and I'm confident in his jumper. Like I
I
think
think the big thing with Ausar for me that I think is the biggest differentiator between the two is Amon plays more like a guard. Ausar plays more like a wing.
yeah, I mean we have him listed as a wing here.
And I think for Ausar, the thing that's going to make him an elite player in this league is if he is able to create off the dribble offensively. Because I don't think again, Amen is a lot more comfortable with the ball in his hands. And I think that Ausar's jump shot translating better gives him more opportunities as a 3-and-D threat. But I think that if Ausar wants to become one of these elite wings in the NBA, if he can develop the dribble package and some sort of passing abilities. Not doesn't have to be what his brother can do, but some sort of passing ability. He's going to be an elite two-way wing.
Yeah, I agree. I think for both of them to be elite though, and especially for Asar being a wing, I think that they're both gonna need to be able to guard 1 through 2, absolutely. And I think that there's a big chance that they'll need to guard 1 through 3.
I agree.
Okay, let's keep her rolling.
Dariq Whitehead.
Yep. And I mean, this is a fun one. I mean,
It's a
Dariq is
tough one for me.
I this is an easy one for me. I think that in terms of like well-rounded players, this is one of the more well-rounded guys that we have. Somebody who, um, has demonstrated the ability to lead a team on offense like he did in his senior year. I don't think that he's as electric of a scorer as Nick Smith, but I think he's just as effective in a lot of ways. And
He
I
can get
think,
his own shot off the dribble.
yeah, he can get his own shot, and he can score effectively. I want to see some consistency in his shooting because he was kind of a chucker in high school. Um, I want to see more defensive stuff. He was really good on defense in high school, and a lot of the things that I've watched him in. I just want to see that continue to improve and be there. And that's really all I have to say about Dariq Whitehead.
Yeah, my big thing with Dariq Whitehead is can he be on ball enough to be a two guard? And if he's a three, is he enough of a good defender that he can guard the elite wings in this league who have probably 3 or 4 inches on him, 2 to 3, depending on the wing. That's my if we're talking about concerns about these guys, that's my big concern with Dariq Whitehead.
Yeah. I mean, I get down with that.
But outside of that, I mean, look, I think he's another guy who's going to be a top 10 pick.
Yeah, I think he's definitely got that pedigree.
And a controversial one here. GG Jackson.
Now, this is the guy that could break the whole draft cycle. And I mean that. This 6'10", 225 defensive power wing could break the whole draft. This is a guy that I see, you know, I've watched a handful of tape. You know, I've seen the definite misses in his game. I think that there's some small little tweaks. You've pointed out that he can't catch. I disagree, but I think that he is electric in transition. This guy is so fast for 6'10". This guy can get up so high for 6'10". He is so
So
athletic. And then
I
at the same
don't
time, he's got a capable scoring package on the perimeter. Like he can shoot. He has a good looking jump shot that's effective. It's a good smooth stroke. He's got a mid range. He's got a turnaround jumper. Like I mean, he's got all these small little like nuances. He can hit a floater. Like I'm just saying, this guy has all these little nuances, and that once they all come together, I don't know. I'm telling
I
you, this is he is raw, and this is definitely we'll get into it in the honorable mentions episode with some of my takes on guys. This he is raw, but the upside is oh my goodness,
I
mamma mia!
dude, I get it, but like I just don't the
There's a watch
defensive
list, Julian.
mobility. No, the defensive mobility is a concern for me, and I think that's a valid concern. I don't think that he is going to be quick enough to hang with a Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren
I
type. I
disagree.
don't think he's big enough to hang with a center. He
I
can't play
disagree.
like I don't think he's that like mobile defensively. He moves kind of I get it. He can get out in transition, but on the defensive end in the half court setting, he is not a guy who can hang at the point of attack.
I
I don't see
the
it.
weak side rim protector, bro.
Maybe
He's guarding fours. Like he's guarding fours and fives. Like he's
if
not
the four, I don't. If he gets attacked off the dribble, I think he's in trouble.
I just don't I think that he's got the length, he's got the ability to take away a lot of those shots at the rim. Like
I
I
look,
look at
I
guys like Matisse Thybulle who are terrible at the point of attack that let get guys.
Batiste Thibault catches up and makes play. Okay, if GG Jackson gets put in a pick and roll, do you think he can stick with the guy coming on the screen?
100%. And I think he can stick with both guys. And I think that he can play as a drop big or he can hedge the ball screen. Like
I don't think
100,
so. I
100%.
I need to believe it to see it.
I'm telling you he can do it. I'm
I need
telling
to
you I've
believe it.
seen it. And I want to see it more at South
I've seen the
Carolina.
opposite.
We're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
Yeah, well, I think that's why our range is so big for on GG Jackson. For those of you looking at the screen,
I have him fourth
um,
on my big board, and Julian has
I
him
have him 19th.
in.
I think honestly, out of our big board, I think Gigi's the only prospect that we have this much disparity on.
Oh, 100%. This is our biggest discrepancy until you get to the honorable mentions and we see the other discrepancies.
Yeah,
But I think that's
well,
more because Julian's lack of scouting prowess and more.
oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. I think it's more because Caleb gets his guys in his head, and then all of a sudden they're Caleb's guys, and then they can't not be Caleb's guys anymore.
Yeah, I mean they can't. They're good. They're good
But well,
prospects. Like I'm identifying these 6'10" prospects that are all going to be the future of the league, and you're just not accepting it. It's okay.
this one's a turtle. I'm sorry, GG Jackson. I love your game. I need to see you either be a weak side help defender, defend at the point of attack. I need to see it. And I don't think South Carolina is going to help with that because he may get exposed because he's the only player on that team. Um, but if GG Jackson's getting attacked next year, it's not a great look.
Next,
But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
Anthony Black. Go
Big
ahead.
point guard.
This is another one of my guys. You just want to jump on him first and just crap all over him before I get to it.
No, I'm not saying anything
No,
bad about him. He's
okay, I'm
just a
kidding. I'm
he's
kidding.
a
I'm kidding.
big point guard.
I'm being a Debbie Downer. All right. Now this is an exciting one. Like I think genuinely this is another one of those guys. This class is so rare with some of the players that they're presenting. Um, you have another 6'7" point guard. Like this is now like another guy to the Dyson Daniels, the Josh Giddies, the Cade Cunningham run of players that we've had coming into these drafts. Now we have two of them with a men and Anthony Black. Anthony Black provides a lot of the similar things that you like about Amon defensively, maybe without some of the eye-popping athleticism, but I think he's still a really, really high-level athlete. He's got some great length to pair with his size as well. Um, his playmaking's on par with Amon. I think his handle's a little bit tighter and a little bit more polished. I think some of his interior scoring is a little bit more polished. I think that he understands how to score a little bit more effectively and use his body more effectively than the Thompsons do at this point, on a consistency basis, not on a highlight reel basis.
No, valid.
I think that on a consistency basis, this guy is going to provide a lot for that Arkansas team. That where everywhere where Nick Smith maybe lapses, Anthony Black picks up all of those things and bundles it into one player, and you have it. Like the defense, the playmaking, the point of attack defense, especially, is something that we were worried about with Nick Smith. And I mean that's what I have to say.
One more thing to chip in there as well that I really like is the rebounding. Really good offensive rebound.
I mean, we'll get into an Arkansas guy and then we'll get to two Arkansas guys in the honorable mentions pod that are two of the best offensive rebounding players in the country,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to talk about those guys. Make sure you check out that video. It'll come up another time later this week, possibly tomorrow. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how everything's rolling. But moving on to the next guy, I think we do one.
Keyonte George.
I guess take a light break after this one. Keyonte George. So, I mean, when we're diving into some of these like guards, this one's kind of a unique one to this class, I'd say. I think a lot of the guards we've been talking about are more playmaking oriented besides Nick Smith. And the differentiation that I see between Keyonte George and Nick Smith is Nick Smith's a more bursty scorer. I think that has an innate ability to blow by defenders on the perimeter. I don't think that's George's strong suit. I think he's more of a side to side navigator and a guy who's going to need to add like a step back shot to really be that elite as a scorer. And that's where I kind of like I see his ceiling has to be as a guy like James Harden or like a Luka Doncic, where he's utilizing some of his frame because he's a strong player for a guard and he's well built. And I think that if he learns how to use his frame better to get to the basket and create opportunities at the line, that's a great way that he can boost his confidence and improve as an interior scorer. I don't see him as a guy who's going to be attacking the rim every time in a pick and roll action. You know what I mean?
No, I think that you summed up the biggest difference between George and Smith is the way that they create space and the way that they use space. Keyonte George can make tough shots, but a downside of that, it's because he has to take tough shots because he doesn't do a great job of creating
It's the
separation.
Johnny Davis. It's the Johnny Davis
Yeah,
dilemma.
it's the Johnny Davis struggles. I think that's an interesting name to bring up because I do really like Keyonte George defensively. I love his motor. I think he's going to be able to score in bunches. Um, he's someone who I want to see at the college level, and that's going to determine. Like some of these guys I think are set in stone higher on my big board. He's a guy who I think could swing all over the place. I have
I think he's a
no
lottery guy
idea.
though because of his shooting ability, and
Yeah,
I think
I
that
agree.
you have
When
to like a big thing that we have to make sure that we get clear with this evaluation because it's been fairly negative so far. This is just a
yeah,
guy that me and you don't like very much, opposed to like compared to the rest of the guys. Like we're not as
yeah,
high on Keyonte George as we are on Jarace Walker, Cam Whitmore, Anthony Black, other guys that are even on here below Keyonte George. I think with George, for me, I want to see him on Baylor. I think that's a great fit for him. I think it'll push him to be a player that's more outside himself. And I think similar to a guy like Dariq Whitehead, there's a great situation for him. And he's gonna have a chance to show. He's gonna have a chance to show the individual areas of his game, and it's about putting it all together for him. To be like
He's
that's where he becomes a. We have draft night range 3 to 14 to become that number 3 guy.
yeah, I think
Range, he has to be. He has to put it all together. He has to be a really good defender. He has to be able to make all these tough shots. He has to be a dynamic shot creator on the perimeter. Like to be able to jump ahead of guys in Nick Smith, he's gonna have to shoot 40% from three. Like he's going to have to be a steady offensive force on that Baylor team. And I think he could. I think there's a world
yeah.
where he does do it.
I
Um,
think he's a guy who I could see later in the season moving up my board very rapidly. I
yeah,
don't think that he falls too much further than this at all, if at all. I think this is kind of, where we have him now, just outside the top 10 is probably his floor, in terms of ranking him in this class. But there is very easily a world where Keyonte George does some of the stuff that he was doing over the summer for that USA team, and all of a sudden you're seeing him as a top 5 pick.
yeah. There's a guy that has similar to most of these guys. They have that upside that is very achievable.
Yeah,
This is just a guy who I think his floor is relatively lower than some
I
of the.
agree.
I think that
I
his
agree.
floor as a player and as a prospect can be pretty low if he doesn't turn out.
Yeah.
All right, Arthur Kaluma, a guy that we're a little bit more confident in because he's one of the more veteran players we've talked about so far.
I was gonna say, is he our first returner on this
I think
list?
this is our first non-freshman.
Our first returner. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks to how talented this freshman class is, but I also think it speaks to the uncertainty of a lot of these guys returning. There's a lot of skill sets that, are very unique in a lot of these players in this draft class. And this is a guy who presents himself with a skill set that, I mean, there's day one NBA starter potential with Arthur Kaluma.
He outside of the shooting, I think he's a very complete player. Um, and I need to see the two things I need to see from Arthur Kaluma is I need to see the shooting get better, which is again, we say this a lot, but the other thing I need to see from Arthur Kaluma is I've seen flashes of Arthur Kaluma taking over a game for a 2-3 minute span at Creighton. I need to see him have that dog in him for 40 minutes. And I think that if he can do that, he can be one of the best players in college basketball this year.
Yeah, I mean, the X-rays need to come back, and he needs to find out that he's got that dog in him, and I think he does.
I think he does too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I think like my favorite thing with Kaluma is that shot fake into the drive, and I think he's so good at blowing by closeouts. I mean,
Oh, he kills
I just
closeouts.
don't know if it's a reflection on the talent that he's playing against with Creighton's schedule in the Big East, or it's other factors.
I wouldn't call the Big East slouches, man. Come on now. What are we talking about here? It's the
I
Big
don't. I
East.
mean, yeah, but like that is the dumpster fire of the Power Six.
It's the Big East, man. They got Nova. They
They
got
go against
Creighton. They
they go
got
against
Providence. They got Georgetown, Seton Hall.
they go against Syracuse, who
Um,
plays a 2-3 zone. So I mean, like the defensive
you're
legitimacy in
singling out Syracuse,
that
bro.
the defensive legitimacy in this conference is yet to
Oh,
be
come
determined.
on, man.
So
Syracuse was an ACC school.
I mean, it is an ACC school. I'm so dumb. I'm
Was. They
it,
are. Are they? Oh, they are in the ACC again.
they still are. I mean,
They've gone back and forth,
I'm so sorry. That was so bad. But like, I
hating
mean,
on the
you
Big
get my
East for
point. You
no
get my. I
reason.
mean, I mean, still, I would be more scared about Syracuse than would be about Georgetown or Seton Hall or any of these schools. And like, I don't know. I need to see some of the stuff that he's doing, especially in terms of the playmaking. I think a better way to phrase my point is that some of the stuff that he does with the ball in his hands and putting the ball on the floor, I'd like to see it translated more at the next level. Like
Yeah.
I need to see it against real defense. Bro,
Yo, this Big East slander will not be tolerated.
I'm on one right now. I don't know why.
How did you, wait. Go back. How did you not slander Jarace Walker playing in the AAC and you're slandering Arthur Kaluma playing in the Big East? 2 and 2 does not add up to 4 there, bro.
I don't know, bro.
That's crazy.
I'm
That is
wild in right now.
blasphemous.
It is a bad take. I don't know what I'm talking about, but like you get
Blasphemous.
what I'm trying to say though. Like I'm not saying it correctly, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Absolute. Any Big East fans out there? I'm
I mean,
sorry. This is not
NBA
a
college
reflection of our
basketball heads are gonna
podcast.
hate me. I mean, they hate me already. I don't care.
I
PG
apologize to all the
Jackson and
Big
South Carolina are my national championship pick. Eat it.
Okay.
Daron Holmes the second. This is your
Please
guy.
don't clip it. This is my guy.
Go ahead.
So for those of you who don't know, and if you've listened to any other on the clock things, you probably know. I am way higher on Daron Holmes than anybody else can and probably should be.
I mean, you
Let me tell
smoked
you
that
why.
Daron Holmes pack, bro.
Smoking that Daron. Let me tell you why. Daron Holmes, there's just one play that just pops out my mind every time I think of this guy. It's against Toledo. Daron Holmes gets screened, sticks the ball handler, forces the ball handler to, pass up, going to the basket around the screen, follows the roller into the paint in the same play, then gets out to contest a shot on the perimeter. This is one play. And I think it just speaks volumes to this guy's defensive motor and defensive IQ. I do get concerned that sometimes he is a bit too willing to run the floor. Um, and that kind of get the whole rebounding part of being a center sometimes slips his mind because he's so eager to, sprint. I mean, to be fair, he does beat guys down the floor fairly consistently. I've seen him beat
Mobile.
guards down the floor. Super mobile. Can defend on the perimeter. And I think that that's what makes me so excited about is the defensive upside. And I think offensively, he's perfect. There's guys who do so little offensively as big men in this league.
I mean, I
Um,
said it in my take. I mean, my point that I'll piggyback right off of what you're about to say. There's so many guys in this league that, as big men, provide absolutely nothing, besides setting screens. And I think that this is a guy who is one of the better screen setters I've ever seen. This is
yep.
a guy who can screen and reposition himself in a place that's beneficial to himself and his other teammates. He doesn't take away spacing with the way he moves on offense around the floor as an off-ball player at the center position. I mean, these are
He
small nuances of the game that you only get from some of these returning bigs that know their role and sacrifice for the betterment of the team.
I have never seen a guy who is so willing to set a screen and then immediately sprint across the court to set another screen.
And
It's like a small thing,
I
but it's
think some
something
of the
you
stuff he's
notice.
able to do also on top of that with dribble handoffs, some of that like outside creation that he adds, that it just gets you really excited as a
He's
basketball
got
fan to see a guy like this play with the amount of passion and heart he does.
Yeah, I think that he's a guy who most people probably don't have as high as we do, but I think we're going to be looking back. People are going to be looking back, I think, in 5 years and saying, like, why did we not see something in this kid?
Yeah, I don't know.
What did
We're
we
gonna be an
miss?
absolute scrub, Julian, and we look like dummies, but I doubt it. I doubt it with this one. I think this is some great piece of scouting that you've done and put me on, and we've been able to
I
like
appreciate
just
that, Caleb.
absolutely just. I mean, I love this kid. I think he's great. I think that he's a definite first round talent, and if people aren't talking about him as a first round talent, they're missing something on the evaluation.
Well, this is a shout out to anyone who's missing out on Daron Holmes. Now is the time to hop on the Daron Holmes train.
On the
It
clock,
is
we got
leaving
Carmel. We
the
brought you
station.
there. We brought you there. We're leaving. All right, next.
Another your guy who I also
Boom
you've hyped up this
shakalaka,
guy.
boom shakalaka. Dunks and
Threes
threes,
and
dunks
dunks.
and threes, baby. I mean, this is like a highlight reel player. Like, I mean, this is a guy that puts butts in seats. Maybe not at NC State, but will in the NBA for sure. Um, when you talk about exciting players in the league, there's very few players that are as exciting as the small point guard who can dunk on people and light it up from three. I think that there's very few players like of that archetype in the league, and when they are in the league, they tend to be successful and find a role. I think this is a guy that's going to find his role in the NBA as a scorer, and as a combo guard. But I think the biggest thing that I see about him as a guy who could be a point guard is his speed and his ability to draw attention. Like, I mean, when you're talking about a guy who at NC State is going to draw attention this year, I mean, who else is on the roster?
Well, if you ask Trevor, DJ Burns.
I mean, DJ Burns is a good player, but like, I mean, who on their roster is going to be, a dynamic creator? I mean, I just
No,
don't name one
the
off the top of your head that
the
is like,
ball the ball's going to be in Turk's hands. And I think that the biggest thing that Turk can do to help his draft stock is improve his decision making as a creator. I think we know that Turk can shoot. We know that Turk loves to shoot. He's a great shooter. He can create his own shot. He can get to the
the
rim.
most consistent thing I've heard about analysis of this guy is that he's never seen a jump shot that he doesn't love.
That's you. That is not a more accurate sentence to describe Turk.
Love,
And
not the one that he likes,
he
one that
just
he doesn't love. That he's
he
like doesn't
will he does not care who's in
zero
front of him.
zero conscience on this kid, and I think it's because he's known that. I think he knows that he's him.
He does, and I think that
This is
just because
Timothy
of
him. This is Timothy him. Like I mean this. I mean Rob Dillingham is gonna have. We're gonna have so much fun with Rob Dillingham next year, and
oh dude, I can't
some of the
wait.
content that we're gonna make with that, like talking about that kid, and but this is what we get for now. We get Terquavion Smith. And I'm excited. I want to see him, improve in the decision making. I think that he does need to develop some more in between scoring. A floater wouldn't hurt him.
No.
A pull up midi wouldn't hurt once in a while. I think that some of the stuff off the pick and roll, he has such great speed and burst, and his first step is unreal. Like I mean, to put it honest, like his first step is on par with the Thompsons. The athleticism's there. I mean, this guy is probably gonna have I mean, the combined like vertical of I'd say like most of the guys on our big board is crazy. Like the average vertical on this big board is insane with some of the athletes that there are in this draft. And this is one of those guys for me that is at the top of the list. And if you're missing out, I'm sorry. Like I'm sorry you didn't hear about this guy sooner, but you're going to because he's gonna put up if he continues what he was doing last year, he's gonna put up 20 points per game and he's gonna have
Yep.
usage to do so. I think you're looking at the ACC scoring champion right now, and I think
Yep.
you're looking at a guy who's going to be, in the conversation for most improved players that have returned.
It's I think it's between him,
And Kaluma,
between Armando
Kaluma,
Bacot, Caleb
Strasburg.
Love, and one of the Duke guys. That's the player of the year conversation in the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stacked conference, and we're gonna get to see him go up against some really, really good teams in Duke and North Carolina, and Syracuse.
Who we've
Judah,
established is
Judah
in the
Mintz, bro.
ACC.
Hey, Judah Mintz is a great player. Like he's gonna be all right. Like I'm not. I'm
Wait, wait, hold on. Now that Syracuse is not in the Big East anymore, they're a good team. How how's that work?
It's Caleb logic. And
I thought the 2-3 zone sucked.
I mean I run the 2-3 zone.
Guys,
My
the two
team's
three
my
zone
team.
only doesn't work if it's in the Big East.
I mean, I'm sorry. This is what you get with the late night pods. Like it's not even late at night, but I mean it's nighttime, and I mean this is what you're getting. This is your content. You're happy to be here for it. So
Moral of the story: don't sleep on Terquavion Smith, even though it's nighttime.
yeah, even though it's nighttime, there's no time to close your eyes to this kid. He's gonna keep them open because I mean, he's a guy that people are gonna want to watch. He's super fun to watch. I mean, if you need me to show you, I'll pull up some videos and we can turn this into a Terquavion Smith party. But I don't feel the need to do that. Like, just go watch some tape. Watch a highlight tape. I mean, there's very few players. Oh, what are you showing? What are you showing? Don't spoil the.
I scroll back up. I forgot if he was the last one or not.
He was the last one. I knew he was the last one.
I
But
didn't.
no, before let's preview. Let's close up Terquavion Smith. Do a quick preview and wrap this one up. Turk, we're both pretty high on him. I think that he's one of these guys that's a niche role in the NBA as a backup player to start. I think that he's gonna have a day one role, a Tyler Hero type role on a
Yeah.
team. He's gonna get the ball in his hands like a Devonte Graham. If you're telling me Devonte Graham was able to carve out like a 3-year period in his career where he got the usage and got enough usage to almost be a 20-point scorer for stretches in his career, Terquavion Smith has a role in the NBA.
Yeah. I
So
I completely agree.
yeah,
I love we both look, Terquavion Smith's going to be a first round pick.
It's Cam
It's the
Whitmore
things
and
that we touched
Terquavion
on.
Smith for me. Those are my guys this year, guys.
It's the things that we touched on, whether or not he's going
Dalen
to be a lotto
Terry and
pick.
Ben Matherin. Last year was Dalen Terry and Ben Matherin. This year, Cam Whitmore, Turk. So at me on Twitter, at me on Twitter when you see these highlights, when you see me talking about how I'm the guru and I know all this stuff, just know that this is all coming from real scouting. We're watching these guys, we're putting in the work. And speaking of real scouting, I want to preview our honorable mentions and sleepers. That's going to be coming out hopefully tomorrow. If you're seeing this today, this should be coming out on Thursday. And if you're looking for something to watch tomorrow, we'll be right back with another preseason big board because the season's right around the corner. We just finished up all of our college team previews last week. Took a little bit of the weekend off to decompress and kind of sort things out. We have more things coming with the 6-month madness underway that we're going to be putting out a weekly college show, and we're going to try and push to have a lot more guest oriented content on this On the Clock channel and coming up in this podcast feed. If you want more from me and Julian, as always, you can find us on theclockbb.com. Like I said, it's going to be down there.
Well, it on the screen share, it's in the top left corner, buddy.
Oh, I mean, it's right there. On theclockbb.com, if you want to find the big board /big board, I mean, it's a very easy hyperlink. It's all over our socials. You can find it on my Twitter or anywhere. I appreciate the support. What little of it we have, I appreciate the engagement. Let us know if you feel any sort of type of way about these picks and the players on these big boards, as well as, just let us know what players that you think that we should keep an eye on. Because I think that that's a big thing that me and Julian are always up for is finding new players and new healthy debates to get into. So, till next time, we're off the clock.